Hello, and this is my video for constraining model text numbers into a clock family. So the first things first, constraining a model text straight into a family, it's very complicated, and so what I suggest is for you to nest the number into the clock family itself. So let's start off by creating our number family, and what I have here is just a generic template which I named model generic. First thing we'll do is we'll create our model text, and let's call it 1. Go ahead and place it. First things first, click on the model text and click on the horizontal line and center. So when you align and lock, it doesn't break on you. Next thing we do is we'll align and lock the center of the number to the center reference planes. So let's go ahead and align the vertical center and the horizontal center. Next, we'll go to front view and we'll align and lock the bottom to the bottom reference plane. So let's go ahead and do that. Next thing we'll do is go ahead and select the model text, and we'll link up the text value to a parameter. Let's link it up to a parameter called value text value, and we'll simply set that to instance. This parameter is going to allow you to change the value of the number to whatever you want, so you don't have to create 12 different types of family for a clock. So let's go ahead and test out the text value, see if it works. So let's go with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 100. So they all seem to stay in the center, and that's good. So once we have that covered, let's set it back to 1 for now. Go ahead and save the family, and let's go ahead and create our clock family. So go ahead and open up a generic model, and let's go ahead and place it. Go ahead and place our number family into a clock family. So first things first, let's save it. Call it clock generic sample. So with that in mind, go ahead and move this out of the way. So for constraining the number, a simple way I propose is to create a reference line to constrain the number. So go ahead, draw a reference plane, and stretch it to any angle, any length you want, but have it start from the center reference planes. So next thing you do is you align this endpoint here to the reference plane itself. So let's go ahead and align that. Next thing, we'll create a length dimension for the endpoints of the reference line, so we can control the distance or the radius, or the radius that's going to be offsetting towards the clock. And we'll just call it number radius. Next thing we do is we'll add an angular dimension between the reference line and the vertical reference plane. And then this is just to control the angle of the number. So we can just call it number 1 angle, just in case we need to change it later on. And if you find that you don't need the parameter, you can go ahead and delete the parameter if you want. But for here, just for testing purposes to see if it flexes. So the last thing you do is to simply align and lock the center of our number family to this endpoint of the reference line. So let's go ahead and align and lock the center to the endpoint. So the next thing you do is to test it out. Let's go ahead and test our radius. Let's go to 6 feet, and it's all the way out there. So it's going over there. Go to 1 feet, and let's go to 3 feet. Let's test our angle also, just to make sure that works. Let's go to 0. Let's go to 45. Let's go to 90. Let's go to 135. Let's go to 180. Let's go to 215. Let's go to 270. Let's go to 315. 360. And 45 for now. And for now, let's change the radius to 1 feet. So that's basically what I propose to constrain a monotext number. Now, if you want the number radius to be a set distance from your clock radius, all you have to do is just simply add a formula to your number radius. So let's say we have a clock radius. Let's clock. I'll add a parameter to it. Call it clock radius. And let's say the clock radius was 1 feet, 1 feet wide. So if you want the number radius to always be 3 inches away from the clock radius, all we gotta do is add a formula to it. And we can just say clock radius minus 3 inches. And this way, the value of number radius will always be 3 inches from the clock radius. Now, as you can see here, we can change the value if you want. So let's say we change it to 1 feet. The clock radius changes to 1 feet 3 inches. The formula still works, but if you want this value to be locked, all you gotta do is add an if statement. Let's say if left parentheses 1 equals 1, comma. Let's go to the end of the formula. Let's put down comma 0 and close it with a right parentheses. And so here it's reading as 1 equals 1. The value will be clock radius. If 1 does not equal 1, then it will be 0. So since 1 will always equal 1, the value will always be clock radius minus 3 inches. So if we change the clock radius back to 1 feet, the number radius goes to 9 inches. And you can always replicate this 12 times to create all 12 numbers in a clock. And that's my little theory of how to constrain monotext numbers for a clock.